This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Text 3. Ashadadhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Translation. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. Text 4. Maya tattam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshu avashtitaha. Translation. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Text 5. Nacha matstani bhutani pasyame yogam aishvaram bhuta brinnacha bhuta sto matma bhuta bhavanaha. Translation. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. Text 6. Yata kaksha stito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tata sarvani bhutani matstanit upadaharaya. Translation. As the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. Text 7. Sarva bhutani konteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punasthani kalpadao vishrajam yaham. Translation. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. Text 8. Prakritim svam avashtabhya vishram jami puna puna putagramam imam kriksnam avasham prakritir vashat. Translation. The whole cosmic order is under me. By my will, it is manifested again and again, and by my will, it is annihilated at the end. Text 9. Nacha mam tani karmani nibadananti dananjaya udashinavad ashinam asaktam teshu karmasu. Translation. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. Text 10. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate chachararcham hetunanena konteya jagad viparivartate. Translation. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Text 11. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanum ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Translation. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Back to text 1, and I'll read the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Purport. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Quote, the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge, end quote. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna and the association of the devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent. And if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement toward spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. So Krishna is trying to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service. And so he's describing matters in this 9th chapter more confidential than any already disclosed. Because chapter 7 has similar topics, but this most confidential knowledge here, knowledge in this chapter is to be looked at as pure devotional service. And so knowledge can mean slightly different things, but this chapter 9 is, through chapter 2, 3, so many things have been revealed, and the fact that one is not the body, one is the spirit soul. And Srila Prabhupada says, that's a great start. That's good, but that's not sufficient in spiritual advancement. That's a good start, but we have to go beyond just that knowledge. So I was going to read just the verses in order again, quickly. The Supreme Lord said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by self-realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. By me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I'm the maintainer of all living entities, and although I'm everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. As the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. The whole cosmic order is under me. By my will, it is manifested again and again, and by my will, it is annihilated at the end. Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Text 1, he says, Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom. So the fact that Arjuna is not envious, Krishna is talking to us through Arjuna. And so we have to, a lot of people may be envious of the Lord's supreme dominion, but it says, Arjuna, you are never envious of me. So there's a humility that a devotee has. There's a humbleness and a non-envious nature where, like a child is usually not very envious of the parent. The child is usually just kind of, if the father or mother has some high position, the child is pretty proud that, that the parent is in that high position. If you were the child of the president, you'd be pretty proud that, well, my father's the president. And so Krishna is like the supreme president. So why would we be envious of our Father who's given us everything, who knows everything, and anything we've ever got, it's because of him. So we have to be thankful. And it's on a slightly unrelated topic, sometimes we ask ourselves, should I, some people out there might say, do I need to quit my job to become Krishna consciousness, or what is my duty? You say, do my duty, and Prabhupada and Krishna makes it clear that no, do your duty, but just do your work, do it in Krishna consciousness, do it in full Krishna consciousness. And some people can really surrender and devote everything to Krishna and become brahmachari for as long as they like. And everyone's in a different spot. But imagine if we were able to get the president to become Krishna conscious, while he's in office. Krishna would tell him, no, don't quit being a president just because you're becoming Krishna conscious. Use your role, use your position as president to help change the world in a really positive way. Just like Ambarish, Prabhu, he was the great-grandson of Alfred Ford. So he inherited a lot of money, and he's used a lot of that money to help with so many Krishna conscious projects, building the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, helping with that, and helping with the Detroit Temple. He's donated so much money and so much time. And so that's amazing. And, if he would have he could have renounced all that and said, I renounce all that money and I renounce everything, but Prabhupada perfectly engaged him on how to use that money and how to help the whole world become Krishna conscious. So Arjuna is never envious of Krishna, and so he's revealing certain things. He's revealing this secret wisdom. And he says, knowing this wisdom, you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So that's a promise to the devotees. Krishna is saying, if you know this knowledge, if you, with extreme faith, if you know this, you won't be affected by the miseries of material existence the way everyone else is and the way you have been. It's you're not going to be as tortured by material existence. It's the way out. It's the way out of this torture of material existence, and relieved of the miseries of material existence, and secret wisdom. It's secret because also the devotees don't just share it with everyone. If someone isn't ready for it, if someone is blaspheming the Lord, or if, we give people a chance sometimes, to as many people as we can, to take this knowledge. But if they slap those in the face, or if they just demand that they don't want it, we're not going to push it on them by force. So it is, some of these, this knowledge is somewhat secret. This devotional service is kind of the secret. It's the highest form of all religions, is devotional service. It's the highest form of any religion, even though Krishna consciousness is non-sectarian. It's above this term mere religion. But if one can attain bhakti, that's the perfection of any religion, Prabhupada says, and relieved of the miseries of material existence. And so he's creating and annihilating the worlds, as he talks about, and it's based on, people are getting their next birth based on their karma and based on their desires at the time of death. And here a lot of times it's compared to wind. Krishna is compared to the wind. He's compared to the air, even, because the air is all around us, but we can't necessarily see it. So it's like we have to have this really firm faith that he's there. Even though we can't see air, we know that we're being constantly kept alive and by the air. And it's also compared to the wind. The world is compared to an upside down bowl, and you've got the winds blowing around, and the sky is at the top, but the wind is blowing around, but it's inside of this framework, inside of this bowl. It can't really leave that bowl. So in the same way, he's giving us complete freedom, but we're within this place. And so how does one get, if one is, it's said that we're completely dependent on Krishna, but he gives us yet complete independence. So there's some things that seem like paradoxes, but that's our mystical relationship with Krishna, that he is, all things are within him, but he is not of these things. He's not affected by these things. So it's kind of like, one analogy I was trying to think of was like, imagine if you had a rich father that owned the whole neighborhood and owned all the groceries, and he allows you to go on a sleepover, and he expects you to behave yourself, but he also expects the parent there to watch out. The parent could be maybe compared to maybe or something, but he's not affected. He's given you complete independence to go there and enjoy with your friends, and he's supplying everything. The houses are all supplied by him, and all the foodstuffs are supplied by him. But he expects that you remember your relationship with him and never forget him. And he's just not affected. He's not affected. He remains aloof from these things. Is the purest knowledge. Text 3, those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. So Srila Prabhupada speaks of the three kinds of devotees, where the third class devotee does not have any faith. and so falls down, leaves. And then the second class and first class devotees don't leave. The second class devotee might not have a lot of knowledge, but has the faith in Krishna, has the faith in the science, and so they don't fall down. And the first class devotee has the knowledge, has the understanding, and has full faith as well. Text number 4, by me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So you've got the three Vishnus, Karanarna Dakashayi Vishnu, Karno Dakashayi Vishnu, and then the second one, Garbo Dakashayi Vishnu, that's who Brahma, the stem, the lotus flower pops out of the navel of Garbo Dakashayi Vishnu, and Brahma finds himself on top of this lotus flower, and then he tries to figure out where's his source. And even Brahma has a hard time thinking of Krishna's two-armed form as Govinda as the Supreme Lord. He's a little bit surprised later on, when he's seen Krishna, with some foodstuffs in his hand. And, it's hard for some people, to think of Krishna as the Supreme, and it's not four-armed form of Lord Vishnu. And it's even Brahma has a hard time accepting it. So what to speak of the human beings or lower species? But Krishna makes it very clear. You have to accept that I have the two-armed form. That my highest form is Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, and I'm everywhere. I'm everything, but I'm also very much that. That's my form as a person. I'm a person. You come from me. You are persons, and you come from me, and you're created in my image like that. And yet, everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I'm the maintainer of all living entities, and although I'm everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. As the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in ethereal space, know that in some manner all beings rest in me. In the same manner, all beings rest in me. 7. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. So the millennium here is spoken. We're talking about Brahma's lifespan, 4 trillion, over 4 trillion years. Even one day is 311 trillion Earth years. So it's a whole other time span realm that is very hard for us to imagine. But 4.32 trillion years is this lifespan of Brahma. 8. The whole cosmic order is under me. By my will, it is manifested again and again, and by my will, it is annihilated at the end. O Dhananjaya. And Dhananjaya, O conqueror of riches. So Arjuna is the conqueror of riches. He has all the riches, and yet he renounces the riches, and he is not controlled by the riches. So he's Dhananjaya. All this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. So Krishna cannot be bound by this, by anything, any type of work. And Krishna can make the material world come into existence just by looking at it. His senses, they can do things that the other senses can do. He can see with his ears. He can create just by looking at things, and he can even eat just by looking at things. So he's ever detached and as though neutral. So completely neutral and not of this world, even though he is everything. So that's interesting and hard to wrap our minds around sometimes. But Number 10, this material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving things. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So he's got his superior nature and his inferior nature. The spiritual nature is called superior, and the material nature is called inferior. And just because it's spiritual doesn't mean it's non-physical, and just because it's material doesn't mean it's physical. 11, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So they think that there's something higher than the two-handed form. They think that it's some sort of spiritual opulence, and that's the highest form, and people are using their imaginations, and other texts don't talk so much about these things. So we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what is God's human form, what is God's form, and what is it really like, and what is he like. And fools don't have any faith, and so they like to talk and not analyze scripture very carefully, and they like to think that they're the expert. They like to think that they're God sometimes, the last snare of Maya. And so it's about listening and listening, and then taking that knowledge and passing it on. So in the 9th chapter, this is more confidential than he's already disclosed. The matters deal with it on a pure, unalloyed devotion. That's why it's called most confidential. Pure devotional service consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. Simply to understand that Srila Prabhupada says, simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. And it's called the King of Education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. Srila Prabhupada says, generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They're educated in external knowledge. It's with things like politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering. There's so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is, unfortunately, no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. And that was written before Rupanuga Vedic College, Ki Jai. So this is a college where the science of the spirit soul is being instructed. You don't find this. It's very rare, very hard to find. The soul is not perishable. The soul is by nature immutable, indestructible, and eternal. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active. And talking about seeds, when a seed is sown, the tree does not appear immediately. It takes some time. Just like when a man performs a sinful act, the seed takes some time to fructify. And how does one know if one's making spiritual progress? Srila Prabhupada says a hungry person doesn't need a certificate to know that if they're taking foodstuffs, they don't need a certificate to know that they're becoming full and that they're getting their strength. So it becomes obvious. One doesn't need a certificate to know that one is making progress or that one is becoming full. And he also says, Srila Prabhupada in a lecture said, you can tell just when you walk around the masses of people, you can just tell that you are different. You're different than you used to be. You're not the same as the masses anymore. The method itself is so pure that simply by engaging in it, one becomes pure. The process of devotional service is a very happy one. Actual devotional service begins after liberation. So devotional service begins after liberation. Bhakti yoga does not require, as Jnana yoga does, that we renounce all activities. Renouncing sense activities does not bring joy, but dryness and misery. And, as it says in text 26, a devotee need only offer Krishna a leaf, flower, fruit, and water to satisfy him. So any poor man can satisfy Krishna. Number 3, Srila Prabhupada says, the faithless cannot attain Krishna. Despite Krishna's repeated words, they cannot accept the supreme position of bhakti. Thus, they take birth again and again in this world. So if someone can't accept the supreme position of bhakti, which is a secret, it's considered a secret of all secrets, they take birth again and again in this world. So we have to assist our fellow people. We have to try to show them bhakti, because if they don't get bhakti, they're going to take birth again and again in this world and keep going through the cycle, the samsara. And we can't understand Lord Sri Krishna's name, fame, and pastimes through our material senses. Only one who's engaged in pure devotional service under proper guidance is revealed. So proper guidance means accepting a spiritual master. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. The spiritual master renders service unto him, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The spiritual master can give you knowledge because he has seen the truth. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, one can see Govinda always within himself and outside himself if he has developed the transcendental loving attitude towards him. So it's about attitude. They say a lot of times attitude is everything. So a transcendental loving attitude towards Krishna is very important. And our attitude, even towards devotional service is very important. It can be like, if we talked of it like a job, it's our Sanatana Dharma. So it's work. It's like a job. So, but if you really love your job and you just want to do your job, you don't need any sort of praise or any sort of remuneration. If you really love your job, it's not really like a job, it's just, you do it because you love it, and it becomes you. It's so much you that you're inseparable from your work. So we have to keep pursuing Krishna consciousness aggressively for the right reasons. Sometimes someone would stay at a job for mere maybe stubbornness or try to outlast another person. But that's not the best attitude. We have to, we just love the work, and we don't stay just because it's convenient or because we're getting kind of a nice situation. We stay because it is our life and soul, and we have this one chance to devote our time and energy towards going back home, back to Godhead, and bringing as many people along for the ride as possible. So let's not waste a single day, hour, or minute. Let's be enthusiastic. And I wrote down just, aim for perfection today. Sometimes it seems overwhelming. I have to be perfect the rest of my life. Can't do that. Sometimes when we make it such a thing, we can trick ourselves out of doing the work, out of just doing it today. And so it's like, just aim for perfection, aim for purity today. And because if you start thinking about the whole rest of your life, it becomes self-defeating. But do your best today. Tomorrow's a new day. Who knows what it will bring? But don't make any mistakes today. So all we have to do is just do our devotional service today and enjoy it, and enjoy each little sweep of the broom, and just aim for purity, and aim for perfection, aim for not making any mistakes. That means performing at your highest intelligence. In improv comedy, there's this principle of performing at the highest intelligence, that you don't try to. It's this kind of long form improv comedy where you have kind of a game, and you kind of accept the rules of the game, and you don't just try to get a cheap laugh. You actually just try to. And similar thing maybe with performing sometimes, as I sometimes have these thoughts of, part of it is up on stage is seeing the genius of the people around me, seeing everything they do as perfect, and just trying to not mess with them a little bit, seeing their value. And if they make what's considered a mistake, you have a way of covering up the mistake. You almost don't acknowledge it, but you also cover it up to where the audience, you may have perceived what might be a mistake, but it could have led somewhere really beautiful. And so you have a way of getting each other's backs. And so I think that's a really nice thing. And assume that devotees, assume the people around you are in the mode of goodness, because we can take things the right way or the wrong way. And so I'm trying to just, see them, hey, they're in the mode of goodness. They meant that in the best possible way they could have. They didn't mean any ill will towards me, because they're not thinking about me anyway. It's unimportant. We're not thinking about each other that much. We're focusing on ourselves, which is natural. So we do something and we think, oh, are they going to talk about me or something? It's like, no, they're probably not. It's pretty unimportant, really. We're thinking about ourselves way more than other people are. And so let's assume that each other are in the mood of goodness. When we say something, we have to try to take it the right way. And we can do this wherever we're at, wherever we go. And I just made a note about, sorry to bring it up, but you hear people talk about something like a cheeseburger, and this is this thing in America where it's supposed to be like one of our great gifts to the world, I guess, is a cheeseburger, which it's actually pretty bad, because it's kind of the dirge of material existence. It's taking the milk from the mother and then killing her, and then combining the meat and the milk into some sort of on-the-go snack. And we grew up with these things in cartoons. We were force-fed these images of these cartoon characters eating a lot of cheeseburgers or whatever on advertisements. But it's actually kind of really dark and demonic if you think about a cheeseburger. You're taking the milk from the mother cow. The cow is considered like our mother because it supplies milk to the whole human world, And so we're taking that milk and making cheese, but we're also killing the animal and then combining the milk and the cheese. And the way people talk about it, like it's some sort of great thing, it's pretty disturbing. So we have to explain these things to people, even if it involves turning their stomachs a little bit. We have to encourage people to have a more sattvic diet and to stop this killing, stop supporting these meat industries, which are not so nice industries, it turns out, because there's a lot of suffering involved. I wanted to read a little bit of text 7 purport. Translation, O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, actually I'm going to go to 11. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Purport. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The Personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. He is the Supreme Lord. There are many Ishvaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers, undoubtedly, both in the material and spiritual world, but Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna, and his body is Sachid Ananda, non-material. So it's like there's the king. The analogy is given that the king is sitting on the throne and the ministers are doing they're doing all the work. They're actually doing all of the activities and the king is just sitting there. But the ministers are not empowered to do anything unless the king is sitting on the throne. So that is like Krishna. He's there, so many activities. He's got so many ministers underneath him, so many living entities doing their duties. But Krishna is not engaged in activities in that way, in the material activities. And so that's the analogy that is given. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Jai Keshwar Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I appreciate your analogy about like wanting, or not analogy, but point about wanting the president to become Krishna conscious, not to give up his position. I thought that was a really nice way of putting it. I have a question about this example you gave about the wind in a bowl. So were you comparing like the all-pervasive nature of Krishna to the wind? Right. Sorry, I was just trying to grasp that.
It was the comparison is the analogy that's given is that the bowl is Krishna, the wind is it's moving around like the living entities. The wind's moving around, but it's within Krishna's framework. You can't really go outside of the bowl, you know. So as much freedom as we have, we don't have complete freedom or abilities to do so many things that he can do, because we're kind of like the wind. We're blowing around a little bit, but we're contained. He's got us contained. So we don't have just complete freedom to go throughout the whole universe or something like that. And it's also said that the wind is blowing out of fear almost. Do you remember hearing that maybe in the Srimad Bhagavatam somewhere, that the wind is like blowing somewhat out of fear? Oh, it's in the purports. Okay.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. Yes, Radha Stali Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing your nice realizations. I always appreciate analogies. They help me to connect with the philosophy a little more easily. I like the first analogy that you said of like the son of a rich man is proud of their parents. They're not usually envious of their parents. They think, wow, my parents are so great. Like I want to support them in that. And so it's a really nice meditation to think like, wow, like Krishna's so great. He created me. Like he chose to create me, all of us. And so it's really nice to think about it like that, of like, yeah, why would I want to be envious of the one that loves me so much to create me? Yeah, it's a nice practice. Another thing I like that you said was just for today, let me see what I wrote. You said aim for perfection and purity today, and then just do our best. That's kind of how I wrote it down. But I really like that, because every day is for me, I'm not super steady yet. fixed or nishta, you know. So it's really nice to hear this encouragement that, you know, we can just keep trying our best, and that we have the highest like knowledge available to us, and we could read what the highest perfection is, and just strive to get there. So I thought that was good. I just want to say one more thing in relation to that. I used to practice Reiki, which is like energy healing work, and they have these principles. It's kind of interchangeable, like some people change it, but they use this phrase, just for today. And they say, like, just for today I will honor like my elders and my parents. Just for today I will be grateful. Just for today I will be honest, kind, so on. They fill in the blank in these ways. And so I just it reminded me of that, and it was a nice it's just nice. So thank you. Hi Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, every day, you know, we get this one day, and so let's make the best of it, and let's try to just for that day, just to set back for that day, and every day is some sort of new amazing experience if we really look at it as it is. You know, sometimes someone will be on the deathbed and they say, I just wish I would have taken advantage of my time or something like that, or I wish I would have appreciated every day. And so we're learning how to appreciate more and more. And when we wake up, we don't know what that day will bring, but you know, we chant our rounds, and there could be a lot of exciting things. You know, Krishna may have something really exciting for you that day ready, and you don't even know it. You know, it's like when you're a child and you wake up on your birthday and you don't know, there might be a surprise birthday party that day. You don't know there could be some surprises. So, but you don't want to ruin it. You don't want to, you don't want to run, and the analogies, I have to thank, Gurudev Dhanavir Goswami, because and of course Srila Prabhupada. But when I first started coming here, as we all did, we were amazed and fell in love with his ability for analogies and how clear it makes things. And I immediately tried to start, giving those to my guitar students, and I just started to be able to have the analogies. So I have to thank him and Srila Prabhupada for that. All right. Bhagavad-gita as it is, ki jai. Srila Prabhupada, ki jai.